Let's talk about education and what it was like for a feral little rebel. When school first started, I loved it. I taught myself to read before beginning kindergarten, and I enjoyed matching wits with the teacher who was supposed to have authority over me. First and second grade were awesome. We had a Viking ship in our library. Vikings were our mascot. It was a full-size Viking ship constructed inside of our library, and the shields on the side of the ship were cushions that we could pull into the ship to sit and read on. I spent many happy, amazing hours in that Viking ship reading, losing myself in fiction and history. My happiest times were in first and second grade. My first grade teacher, Mrs. Graff, cultivated my creativity. She and a neighboring teacher, Mrs. Wright, helped line me up with my first professional art job, illustrating a children's cookbook with very simple after-school recipes. My second grade teachers, Mrs. Drummond and Miss Lowell, were also rad. Mrs. Drummond would come into class and tell us ghost stories. She had a son pass away, and she told us that she brought a medium into her house to help send his spirit to the afterlife. For a spooky little 7-year-old, that was awesome. Those librarians with the Viking ship were also super cool. Mrs. Bergstrom and Mrs. Stromberg. However, Mrs. Bergstrom once refused to let me check out an Alfred Hitchcock anthology because she said it was past my reading level. She told me that before she'd check it out to me, I had to stand at the checkout desk and read paragraphs from the book and then explain them to her in my own words. You better believe I stood at that elementary school checkout desk and recited that Alfred Hitchcock paragraph like I was a beat poet. I took the book home by the end of the day. This is where my hero's journey kind of begins. Starting in third grade, teachers kind of stopped being teachers. They became lazy prison guards just sitting at the front of the classroom waiting for the end of day bell to ring. I became something undigestible just passing through the system year after year. This culminated when I was 14. About 9 months after my brother Jacques and I found our father's corpse in our bathroom. My math teacher pulled me into the hallway to tell me she was transferring me out of her class. She told me I had no idea how to be a student.
God damn. I faced poverty and wild dysfunction at home. At school, I was so badly bullied it made me wish I was brave enough to kill myself until I rebelled like a wild animal. Then had to face teachers like this that told me I'd never be anything and that I was hopeless. So I just made a lot of art.
Eventually, I just gave up on school. They wouldn't let me fit in, and I refused to submit. So I just returned to being the feral wild boy they all said that I was. I danced my ass off underage at nightclubs, sang in bands, and performed as a burlesque dancer in a very violent burlesque show. Soon, I regretted not finishing school. So one afternoon, without any preparation, without studying, without opening a book or knowing what was on the test, I sat down and took the GED exam. And in about 2.5 hours, suddenly I was a high school graduate. After a little bit longer as a wild little fellow, I realized I needed to grow up a little bit. So I applied to several art and design schools, hoping to channel the atomic furnace inside of me towards ambition, work ethic, and some kind of future. I was accepted at an art and design school in my home state and given a full-ride scholarship. But at the very last minute, I declined the scholarship and chose not to attend. After a harrowing and dangerous weekend, I called the director of admissions after orientation had happened and begged her to reinstate my scholarship and allow me to attend. She agreed and reinstated my scholarship, saving my life. The artwork that I mentioned that I spent that time creating was the portfolio that I used to get into that school. That director of admissions was Gail Franklin, and I am eternally grateful for her. I thrived in that environment. I met the founder of the college's children, who at that point were the executives running the school, and they understood me, nurturing me on my creative journey. I met the chair of the liberal arts department, who asked to be my mentor. For the first time in my life, I was understood. But there were setbacks. The birthday of my freshman year, we were so wild and went so hard that I wrecked my car heading home. After stumbling to a nearby house, knocking on the door at 3 a.m., and asking for them to call the police who came to investigate the accident found me with my wrist outstretched, ready to be arrested or to accept any responsibility I could so that I could redeem myself and continue with my education. Not every obstacle was so harrowing. I had amazing adventures at that time. There was the time that I accidentally started a bonfire outside of a historical building when a peer asked me to destroy a canvas they didn't like. Or the time that another peer tried to petition the rest of the student body to get me expelled from the college because of a particularly aggressive but very successful experiment I conducted in our Psychology of Creativity course. Or the time that I had to confess to the college president that I received oral sex from another student on the president's desk in his locked office after the college closed.
After receiving 6 additional scholarships and appearing on the dean's list every semester I attended, I graduated with honors on a full-ride scholarship. My graduation exhibition was the first time I was asked to sign autographs.
I'm not telling you any of this to impress you. I am trying to inspire you. Never let anyone tell you who and what you are. Never acknowledge authority unless they earn it. When I was 14 years old, some dumb bitch tried to tell me I was hopeless. She told me I'd never be anything. And I have seen and done things beyond her wildest conception. If I can do it, so can any of you. Thank you for listening.